Hi guys, and welcome to Moto Scotty. So in this video I'm so excited to finally start showing you the restoration process of my KITT Firebird. So without further ado, we're going to start with some basic maintenance, so just lean back and enjoy the show. Alright, in my last video I mentioned the flasher didn't work, so I started replacing that. The flasher is located on the driver's side under the dash next to the fuse box. So you just need to remove the cover. Then the access is pretty easy. Just pull out the old one and insert the new one, and that's all there is to it. So let's take a look under the hood and do the oil change on this small block V8. Right away you can see there's a pretty significant dent in the oil pan. There's also a little hole in the plastic converter cover. So that will have to get fixed down the line, but for now it's just a quick drain and fill. This engine takes 4.7 liters of 5W30 oil, so just make sure you got a big enough catch recipient to drain the oil into. I did go for a quick drive to warm up the oil first. The old oil was pretty dark and kind of thick. Good thing it came out. I don't know how long it was in there. And as for the oil filter, it's pretty easy access, just next to the oil pan on the driver's side. Just get an oil filter socket or chain and unbolt it. In my opinion, oil filters should never be tightened super tight. On your car, chances are it'll come off just by hand. I had to use the ratchet. Just make sure to have an oil catch can underneath. Trust me, it will get messy. It will definitely spill over from all sides. So before I put a new oil filter on, I'm just going to fill it up with oil so it doesn't run dry for the initial couple of seconds I started. Fill it up with oil and then put a little bit of oil also on the filter sealant. I'm using 5W30 oil as prescribed, as indicated also on the oil filler cap. I'm putting the oil drain plug back in with a new crush washer. And then I also cleaned up the oil filter housing a little bit with some brake clean to get it ready for the new filter. And once the new filter is on, I just hand tighten it. I mean, you just give one additional turn roundabout just so it's snug, but not like, there's no need to really over tighten any bolt. Like, it just needs to seal, and you want to be able to take it off again easily at your next oil change. So once you've put the drain plug back into the oil pan, it's time to put fresh oil into the engine. You might want to take the air intake assembly out of the way so you can properly pour it, or if you have a larger, longer funnel, you might not need to do that, but as you can see, I just took the jug and made some space for myself to put the engine oil in. So as for the spark plugs, I usually would have gone for the original OEM ACDelco. I went with the BOSCH ones. They look a little bit different, appear to be a little bit shorter, but they work just as fine. I just happened to have clicked on them because they appear to be popular, and they're fine so far. They work. So as far as the spark plugs are concerned, they're pretty straightforward to get out. I mean, here on the left side, on the driver's side, the cylinder 1, 3, 5, and 7 are pretty easy to reach to. Like you can see here, there's a little bit of oil from the spilling of the oil from the fill up before. That's nothing to be worried about. The right side is a little bit more tricky to get the back cylinder, like cylinder 8, 6, maybe 4, 8 and 6, to get those out properly, but it works. It's a little tight, but with the spark plug ratchet and the respective articulation, you should be just fine. If I could do it, you can too. So when it comes to the air filter, the procedure is pretty easy. Just take off the big round cover on top of the engine, take out the old circular shaped air filter, and put a new one in and put the lid back on. Job done. So moving on to the coolant, obviously I didn't really check it when I bought the car, and if you look at into the overflow reservoir, it's really low and crusty and disgusting water that's left in there. Same thing as when you open the radiator cap. It's just like looks like it has never been changed before, and actually the like all this gunk, disgusting stuff, and even the tube from the radiator over to the overflow reservoir was all clogged up, so it wouldn't even overflow the water that was in there. So the first thing I did was actually just clean the radiator cap. I might eventually buy a new one down the line, but for now I just cleaned it up. And before the spring wouldn't even work properly, so I cleaned it all up so it would work again properly. And then I went ahead and took the overflow reservoir out, and I cleaned it with some dishwashing soap, and hoped that all the gunk and all the traces would come out. But unfortunately, it didn't really work as planned, so not much really came out, like some of the debris, but all this, like it was a really strong crust, so I ended up putting gravel into the reservoir, and just to like kind of shake it around and like let the gravel scrape off all of this gunk from the walls of the reservoir. And did this a couple of times, filled it with like half filled it with water, some soap, and all this gravel. Shook it really strongly for a while, on all sides, up, down, sideways, and then look at what came out. This disgusting, rusty colored, brown colored water with loads of gunk. So I did this several times with the gravel inside and fresh water, like I don't know, like 3-4 times, just to get as much, like all of the little debris out of the side, the walls of the reservoir, and to get it really clean. And then I just had to really make sure to get all of the bits and pieces of gravel out there, because they would be stuck in all corners of the reservoir. And also had to make sure I don't leave anything inside the tube. But that turned out to be a really effective method to clean out the overflow reservoir. It was a really easy and effective method to clean it all up. So at this point it was time to like empty all the old coolant out of the radiator. The plug is on the right side, on the passenger side, just on the lower part of the radiator. It's usually easier to get rid of the wheel wells and all the plastics underneath to actually access all of this properly, to kind of just pull it out and let it drain. So at this point what really helped me is just to get a garden hose and flush out all of the gunk that's in the radiator. I just left the radiator open on the bottom, the drain plug, and flushed it all out. And then what I did was just like put just normal water into the system and into the overflow reservoir, and just let the engine run with the heater on. Flush everything out, massage the hoses, the coolant hoses, the upper one and the lower ones as far as I could reach them, and just do this a couple of times until most of all of the old coolant and all the gunk is out. At this point, you're probably expecting me to remove the coolant hoses, to pressure wash everything inside the system, but I didn't do that. The several cycles of running the engine with distilled water in the system and purging it afterwards worked pretty well for me. Neither did I change the thermostat, so I might do that down the line, but the car is cooling just fine, so for the time being, there's no need, and it can be done easily at any time. And eventually, the water coming out of the system was pretty clear, so I decided to put the drain plug in definitively and fill it with 50/50 antifreeze and distilled water. I let the engine run with the heater core on, with the heater on, so it would run through the heater core too and let it bleed by itself. It took a while to get rid of all the air bubbles and the squeaking due to the air bubbles going through the water pumps, but it got there eventually, and I topped the coolant off in the overflow reservoir. And to give you an idea of what it sounds like with some air bubbles in the system, check out these clips. There was still quite a bit of air in it later on when it was about to go to the body shop.
And this concludes the first part of the basic maintenance on my Pontiac Firebird. I will show you all the fuel related maintenance work as well as a quick update on KITT's current condition in the next video. Don't worry, it will be out shortly. And this brings me on to the next point. If you want to see KITT's current condition or KITT's current progress, just make sure to follow me also on Instagram and Facebook, because KITT's actually much further progressed in its restoration and conversion to KITT than what you've just seen in the video. I'm actually, well, he or it is actually very close to completion, so just make sure to follow me on Instagram and you'll be all sorted. Okay, thank you for watching and see you next time.